Greetings again, friends. I'm coming to you today because I want to do something that's really touching on a subject that's very important to think about. Now, I can't really deal with it completely in one video because there's so many aspects to talk about this. I actually picked out 3 of my blog articles that I want to do a series here on safety. On safety. Now, safety is one of those things that that's hard to know how to really define because it's really a matter of opinion. Now, in this year of 2020, we have had so many things happen with the coronavirus and everybody being afraid they're going to get that, and people wanting to stay safe, and even wearing the masks when you're out to be safe, and then before that all the shutdown to be safe and to slow the spread, and now you have protests that have been going on since that terrible killing of George Floyd, and all the protests in this country and around the world, and some of them getting to where you don't feel very safe because of burning things and destroying property and just being crazy as they've been. So I just thought it would be appropriate to address this issue of safety more. And since I went through my own personal tragedy and write about that in my book, which you should look at. You can get a copy of it. I'll send you a signed copy if you're interested. It's the Virginia Tech tragedy and my personal tragedy, lessons to learn from an insider and from Scripture. And I found myself on the inside of the mental health system, on the inside of the the jail system. Went through the court processes, and the story's too long to tell. I had to write a book, and there's quite a long story there about what was going on. But I was writing during a lot of the things that were happening to me, and one of the issues that I kept hearing from people is that they made decisions on the basis of safety. And it justified many decisions they made, often not good. Now, I was thinking about this, and I actually looked at Dennis Prager, who has his own channel out, and I thought he had a really good video that he had posted called Safety Means Never. And basically, if some people would have their way, nobody would ever get out and do anything anymore because there could be something out there to kill us, like a coronavirus or the next big virus that comes, or it's just not safe to go out and drive your automobile vehicle because you could have an accident, or it's not safe to fly, or I mean, you could think of all kinds of reasons why things aren't safe, and you'd never live a life. You'd never do anything. So I wanted to kind of tie this in, and the first one of these 3 that I want to go through is the one that I wrote on January the 10th in 2011, and it was called The Right to Safety. And this became an issue with the different shootings going on, and I got to thinking about it more with my own situation, and the principles here are applicable to what we're going through right now. So let me just read through this and kind of comment as we go through it here. This happened right after I wrote this blog, just 2 days after that Tucson, Arizona shooting, where the Congressman Gabby Giffords was shot, and even a young girl at 9 years old got shot, which I'll go through as I read this. But having had my own life impacted by the shooting at Virginia Tech, this shooting again brought back a lot of things, and I addressed this in this article. So on January 10th in 2011, I wrote, details of the latest shooting rampage and tragedy in Tucson, Arizona are coming in now, and we are learning more about what happened in this latest incident and even why it could have happened. 6 have been killed and 13 others injured to varying degrees. Blame continues to be a problem, exacerbating the issue, and given that this shooting impacted a federal congresswoman, a wave of fear, blame, and concern is sweeping throughout the government. Compassion is also at work, so there is hope that there can be healing and learning from this tragedy. One danger that I see in all of the aftermath of trying to understand it all is for people to slip into the idea that safety is somehow a right that we have. This is the focus of what I will write about here. Now, safety being a right, boy, if you think about rights, you think about what's going on with the protests. I mean, this is our right. We have the right to equality. We have the right to, people want to say, with the things that the organization Black Lives Matter says. Now, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, every life matters, but with things that organization says, like reparations and free everything and just things that they justify doing in that organization and being funded to do so and cause damage and stuff, that's just wrong. And they're emphasizing their rights, and they want to have a revolution even to get to their rights. But that's not the way that you get rights. Our Constitution in the United States gives us rights that we have. And you should, I have an app on my phone of the U.S. Constitution. Was just talking about that with my family, where we look at the different amendments and see how much we are really going by the U.S. Constitution and the amendments that are there. But we talk about rights in this country. So the right to safety, is that such a thing? Well, I go on here. Early on in my own personal tragedy stemming from the worst U.S. massacre in history at Virginia Tech on 4/16/07, I realized that safety often becomes the preeminent idea that rules the day and leads to many actions that even come to violate the laws that are set up to provide safety. I found that true for myself. One of the first responses, true with this Tucson tragedy as well, is that the shooter or perpetrator of violence has a mental issue. Typically, people say the shooter was mentally unstable or imbalanced somehow and therefore needs to be detained for some mental evaluation by professionals. This is insufficient reasoning and even quite dangerous, as it presupposes that the mental health professionals have the answers and can even ensure safety. Who do we put up as the people that have the answers? Do we put the doctors to have the answers? And what about those people that made models for this coronavirus? How accurate have they been? Who do we put up as the authorities and have the answers and can ensure safety? Even if someone is deemed professionally to be no threat to self or others at a given time, does that mean that this will always be true? Would being put on medication somehow guarantee this? That being the primary defense mental health professionals use? By the way, with all these shootings, almost always they're on medication, and they've had a problem with the medication or a change in the medication. So medicines aren't the answer there either. Additionally, defaulting to the mental health argument is dangerous because these workers and or the community or even national leaders become the godlike authority as they then determine what constitutes mental imbalance or balance. Objectivity and freedom are then easily thrown out or at best marginalized in the name of safety and that alleged right we have for it. So you get less freedom when you get more safety. You get less objectivity. You get more people, more individual people in authority making decisions. Friend, as I say here, safety is not a human or even a constitutional right. Government and law enforcement officers are supposed to help keep the peace, and thank God for those that are, and that aren't bad cops, but are good cops trying to help people and keep peace and keep the law officers. But there is no realistic way to have a free society and guarantee peace and safety for everyone at all times. I just heard John Green, the father of the youngest victim in the Tucson shooting, 9-year-old Christina Green, say that having a free society means that we will be subject to these incidents and that he prefers this to the alternative. And I said here, that is a very mature attitude to have, especially given his great personal loss and losing his 9-year-old daughter to that. And an attitude that should temper what officials do in the aftermath of these tragedies. You cannot have a free society and have safety, because those two things don't go together. And what we've had done with the lockdowns and the shutdowns, and now a lot of things have been important to stopping this contagious virus, but not everything has been done correctly. And hopefully we will learn from this and not make same mistakes again. In fact, I believe our president said that if it's up to him, there won't be another shutdown, even with some kind of virus like this, because of how crazy it's been for the economy and other problems that come from that. So safety can never be achieved, and it's always a moving target. I had written about this very thing on 5/13/08 in an article called An American Idol Safety, and I'm going to include this in another video. And it's also included in Appendix 5 in my book. I say safety is an ideal, but not a right. Nor can it ever be if men are to be free. Let me just read that again. Safety is an ideal, but not a right. Nor can it ever be if men are to be free. While the Tucson tragedy did occur on a school campus, the fact that the shooter was recently a student at a local community college and had run-ins with people and even police there, again brings this issue home for my own tragedy-torn community and all others who consider the education of our children and citizens. How do we help these troubled souls? How do we prevent people from getting to such a place as Jared Lee Loughner, the one who did that? How can we do more to ensure safety? That requires more discussion than I have room for here, but I've written extensively about this from my own experience with tragedy and spiritual understanding, and in the book I talk more about this some too. And I say in conclusion here, you could allow your desire to be safe to keep you indoors and isolated from others. Interesting. Your desire to be safe could keep you indoors and isolated from others. And there are some officials in this country, like in Michigan, especially as it comes to mind, that want to limit people and keep them indoors, and at one point was keeping people and saying you can't boat, you can't mow your lawn, you can't hardly go outdoors. I mean, just crazy things that people were thinking. If you desire to be safe, then you'd stay indoors and isolated from everybody. You'd never do anything or have interaction with others. And I say you could worry and even become cynical, thinking that things are only going to get worse and worse. Now, that can also happen, and it does happen, and it happens even theologically to some people who wrongly teach that the Bible says that things are just going to get worse and worse. I'm sorry, you can look at that verse in 2 Timothy 3, and it doesn't say that. It doesn't say conditions in the world are going to get worse and worse, and then Christ will come. I can talk about this in another video. It says that evil people and seducers will wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. So you can continue to have a pattern of behavior that gets worse and worse in people, and you certainly see that today, and you see it politically, which makes you think it's going to get worse and worse. You can get cynical, and you could think it's just going to be like that. But if you understand where safety actually comes from, and what the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ will do, you can be at personal peace and safety, no matter what circumstances are raging around you. Friend, safety is of the Lord. Safety or deliverance, as Proverbs 21:31 says. Safety is not our right, but our responsibility to help make possible through love and truth. I personally know that our mental health professionals, police, judicial, and educational institutions can do a better job here too. And certainly they can, as I learned through my experience. So friend, safety is not a right, and if you want to be free, it never will be. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this discussion and it made you think. And I hope you'll like it and you'll subscribe to this channel and you'll hit that notification bell and see when the next one that I bring out for you. So share this with other people. If you agree with what I say, give me that thumbs up and make any comments you want. And I look forward to seeing you again next time.